Tell us a little bit about that experience and how was it for you, especially when you started this?
In terms of diagnostics and
Yeah.
selling the practice? I mean, look, the bottom line for me was, and for everyone that's listening, when I put diagnostics into business, the number one thing, number one reason was it had to serve a purpose. And the purpose was, one, it had to elevate the game for my clinicians. The sensitivities in our special tests at best 50, 60%, a Sperling's test is 30%. So in reality, my therapist could be evaluating, calling something one thing, and could be missing it 70% of the time. That's real. And that's an issue. And then they're treating something that's really not. So, and my thesis in PT school was on autonomy. And I said to myself, well, diagnostics elevates the game of the physical therapist. It helps them practice with a level of autonomy. It improves the accuracy of making a diagnosis. Treatments become much more effective. Outcomes get better. That checks off the box of professionalism and separating ourselves and our competitors. And that had to withstand, that had to be primary, because the purpose wasn't money. Because if the purpose is money, it's never enough. Money was a byproduct of a great service and a great exchange with our patients. So when we implemented diagnostics, it was the best thing that we did, because again, I didn't really know what and back then I wasn't even looking at it from a EBITDA valuation exit standpoint. It's 10 years ago. I'm a little, I take risk. I do take risk. And I believe in practice, we've got to be ahead of our competition. And sometimes you got to pull a trigger. But what it did for my practice when it came down the road was, it set me and my family up.
Now, Dan, we keep saying the word diagnostics, but especially those people who are watching who are listening to the podcast version, they may not have a concept of what we're talking about. What we're talking about when we say diagnostics.
So in terms of diagnostic testing, we were performing EMG testing. We were performing nerve conduction studies, musculoskeletal ultrasound, other tests like somatosensory evoked potentials, VNGs for balance. I mean, at the therapist's disposal was a variety of these diagnostic tests and CPT codes that were only in the hands of neurologists and physiatrists. PTs aren't playing in that sandbox. And with diagnostics and getting my therapist trained and putting that in our practice, now we have at our disposal CPT codes that are only in the hands of physicians that the insurance carrier is reimbursing significantly for, because there's a ton of money contributed to diagnostics, that it was a complete separation for us.
Now, listen, the inclination that physical therapists have, especially when they are running into a financial situation, is like, okay, I need to increase my patient visits. I need to increase my new patients. I need to increase my patient visits. How does that play out?